Hey, what up, guys? It's me again, and welcome to the This Is My Moment podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Mitchell. And here at This Is My Moment, we love having a good time. We love meeting new people, and we love to see you smile. Oh, yeah, it's season 2, baby. Let's go get it.
There ain't no stopping it, this is my moment. Join the movement, we bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better, cause it's all about...
Today, I have a lot of questions about a lot of questions. You'll figure it out later. Introduce yourself to the family.
Hi, my name's Cindi Buckley, and I have written a book, Love Awakens You, which is about recognizing and understanding the difference between fear and love, because fear is so pervasive in our lives and we are not aware of it.
I'm glad you talked about that because we finna jump right into it. I've been married a long time. When I say long, I mean 24 years.
31 years.
You got me, you win. But I'm going to tell you what, if I was married to myself, I would have been left long time ago. So,
I know the feeling.
with that said, talk to me a little bit about your book, Love Awakens You. What is that?
Well, it's a book that actually helps you to connect to your intuition. It does it gently, and it's helpful if you read the book slowly because it is not a typical self-help book. It is not like any self-help book you've ever read. You don't have to do any affirmations, no journaling, no self-help techniques. You just read the book. And as you read the book, a little more love and light comes out of you. And then you connect to your higher guidance, depending on what you want to call it. I have a long list of names. I'll just say higher guidance because it's kind of generic for a lot of people. And as you do that, you find your life tends to flow easier. Not perfect, but easier.
It's nothing on earth perfect. So I'll take easier for sure. So we were talking a little bit off camera, and I know you got the question. So I want to ask you something. When I was reading up on you, looking you up, you talk about Love Awakens You and understanding the difference between fear and love, right? So I'm going to ask you one question. So please just answer this. I don't want you to get into it because I think you're going to jump ahead of me. Don't jump ahead of me. Here we go. You ready, Miss Cindy?
Ready.
What's your definition of fear when it comes to love and awakening and all that stuff? What is your definition of fear?
Fear means you're listening to the wrong advice. I'm going to have a lot of things that might shock you. So this means that you're listening to ego. Ego's not nice. Ego is in control, not you.
I want you to explain to me because I want to talk about definition of love, but I want to know why ego is not good. Not even a little bit, like in moderation?
No.
Why?
Ego wants to keep you downtrodden into the depths of the ocean. It wants to keep you buried from becoming your authentic self. It doesn't want you to shine bright and to be able to help people to uplift themselves into happiness, peace, harmony.
So how did you come up with that definition and the ego thing? How did you come up with that? Because I don't want to say it because I don't want to sound like a jerk. But over the years, I've been good at some things, and I've had a little ego about myself, a little swagger about myself. Where did you come up with that? Like how was that?
I've been a student of A Course in Miracles now for 18 or 19 years.
Okay.
And I've read The Disappearance of the Universe. Well, I did the Disappearance. I started with reading Disappearance of the Universe, and I got into it like half a chapter, and I went, I have to read A Course in Miracles. So I went and got A Course in Miracles, and I read Disappearance of the Universe. I read A Course in Miracles and did the workbook at the Course in Miracles all at the same time. I do not recommend people do that, because your ego is going to get challenged. The way you perceive the way things are not. And you're going to go, well, I didn't do that right. Oh my God. And you panic, but you get through that and you realize, well, I can make it better. I can learn and I can and move on. And then how do I go about it? At the same time I was doing this, inspirational sayings started coming to me. I mean, middle of the night, I'd say, oh, I'd remember. No, I didn't remember. I'd be in the restaurant and I'd need a piece of paper, napkins. I had a lot of napkins. I'd write on napkins. I said, my husband, don't you have anything to write with? I had to learn to carry a pen and paper because he didn't have what I needed, so I would have to write. Yeah, and that's just how it came about. About a year ago, a little over a year ago, I said, you know what? I think I better write a book. It may be helpful to some people.
I dig. You know what's funny is I keep a pen and pad next to my bed. Like I have my phone. I have my phone, and the phone can take notes and all that stuff. But I'm an old school guy, man. I like to write it down. And you're right. You know what's funny? If I wait to in the morning, my idea has become watered down, and 9 times out of 10, I ain't gonna remember it like it was when I was asleep. So good for you for keeping up paper. So I love this. I think I'm finna have a ball today. So, what's your definition of love?
Love is a never-changing way of life. Love is the embodiment of kindness and compassion. And I mean compassion. I don't mean sympathy and I don't mean empathy. I mean compassion. And it is a way of being where all of a sudden you walk everywhere and people notice you. But they don't notice you as a person. They only feel the happiness that emanates from you. And I know this to be true because I don't have mail delivery in the town I live in, so I have to go to the post office. And when I go to the post office, people I don't even know smile at me and say hello, because I walk around with this little smile on my face and I have this little bounce in my step, and it just emanates from you, and it's catchy.
It is. It is. You know what's funny? I was talking to you a little bit earlier about the way that I run the podcast for my grandfather. And you know what, man? The reason I started it and those talks is because negativity is abundant, but and people gravitate more towards negativity because people, I believe, like the drama and like the negativity part of that. But when you're positive, and you're not going to always be positive. Sometimes life happens, but for the most part, when you're positive, it feeds other people. It's good morning. Oh, what are you saying good morning for? Because I woke up. Like it's like, you know what, man? Like it's something about people that's happy and or in a good space to where they walk is a little bit different. You know what I mean? Your smile is a little bit different. Even your clothes shine a little bit brighter because that's what you exude. Your aura is that of happiness and peace. I love it. I knew I was going to like this one. I knew it. I knew it. But let me ask you this, though. And this is not on the list. Can you bounce between fear and love?
You can, but every time you bounce to fear, you technically take a step backwards. That doesn't erase your storehouse of kindness at all. It just means you have to work a step or two harder to make it back towards the kindness and love and compassion.
I was curious. So how do you build up a repository of love? That way when you have those bad days, right? You still got a good amount inside of you. What do you do to build up that love and caring that you got inside you? What do you do?
I do a whole lot of forgiveness. but it's but it's not the type of forgiveness that everybody knows in the world. It's the type of forgiveness where you understand that you and the other person have done absolutely nothing wrong. You accept that that other person has done something that irks you, which creates a mirror effect, which is something that you don't like about yourself.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it does. And, I like to tell people my husband presents me with endless forgiveness opportunities. But over the years, it becomes less. And it sometimes feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over. But as I continue to do that, I am undoing the ego. You can't suppress the ego. You can't give it up. You can't decide, I'm not going to do ego today. The only way you can get rid of it is undo it. And you undo it by your storehouse of kindness. And one of the best ways is through forgiveness. You can do it other ways through affirmations, positive statements. You can do it through realizing that, oh, maybe they were right and I was wrong, and let me apologize. Try not to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry often has a connotation of guilt to it, that you've done something guilty. So you just say, I apologize, my apologies. That type of thing.
I'm a firm believer in everything that you've said. But here's what I want to ask you. How do you recognize when you start moving from love towards fear to get you back? You see what I'm saying? So you're in love and a couple things happen, life may happen, and you see yourself starting to veer off course. How do you recognize that? And then the second part is, how do you get back on track?
You recognize it because fear is every emotion that exists that's not love. That's everything. This world revolves around fear, not love. That's how you know you've stepped away. Are you being kind? Are you being compassionate? And if you can answer no to any one of those questions, then you're in fear. And the way you get back to it is through, well, I do through forgiveness, but you can always do an affirmation, something that says, I have a simple one I like to recommend. I am always safe and protected.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when we get angry, we have this anger that builds up in us and we want to explode through frustration, depression, screaming, yelling, and sometimes we do those things. We take a deep breath and we go, I'm always safe and protected. And what that does is it calms you down and it brings you back to your center, where you can then learn to do love again. Because yes, it's a learning process. Repetition's your best friend, and you can't get around that.
Yeah, yeah. I laugh is because a lot of times people say things and you may not say it the same way someone else says it, but the meaning is the same.
Yeah.
And I talk about positivity. I don't call it love, I call it positivity. And it's just one of those things, man, that you have to have. And you're right, fear is so much more rapid than love. And I think that you can get caught up in fear to where you can get it misconstrued as love. And I'm going to ask you this, and this is not on the paper either. Do you believe that you can get so wrapped up in fear to where you start labeling it differently to make it seem not so bad, right? Like I hear people all the time like, oh, I'm a pessimist. That means, oh, I can be negative all the time, right? Like, okay. Or I'm an optimist. I'm always positive. Do you think that you can get wrapped up around fear and then use wordplay to make it okay?
Yes, absolutely. You can, because we're so used to the way our society teaches us to be. Now our society teaches us we have to strive to get more things. Well, how do you get more things? You can work hard, you can steal them, you can do a variety of things to justify how to get more things. But guess what? Those things don't make you happy. What makes you happy is the striving for it, the adrenaline rush. None of that is love. But because that's what we're taught to do, we believe that's what's love. We believe when we criticize someone, we're actually helping them, but we're not. There's a way to criticize someone, and then there's a way to be helpful and say what you need to say. When you're guided by your higher guidance, it will always then be what the person needs. And it's what you need as well. There's always a two-way street. It's just not always 50-50.
Do you believe in constructive criticism?
I do. But when I'm guided, sometimes people can say things that come out hurtful, judgmental, mean, and there can be better ways of saying things. I don't need to hear that someone doesn't like my haircut. I like my haircut. I'm not about to change it. But, there are people who will say, I don't like your haircut. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
That's not my issue.
Yeah, I did that. That's a you problem.
Yeah, you have to learn to let a lot go. And when you get to that point where you can let something go and it doesn't bother you, then you know you're in love. You're just accepting they're on their journey and you're on your journey.
Yeah.
So you do learn to keep your mouth shut a whole lot. Although sometimes, you have to say something.
Do you have to?
Not always should you, but sometimes you just gotta.
Taking criticism, even if it's given, I think it takes mental toughness, right? Like you have to not take it personal, right? How do you feel about the definition of love that you gave, the definition of fear that you gave, and mental toughness? Do you think that you have to be mentally tough to understand the differences between the two? Like, what do you think you have to be at mentally? No?
You can use the term mentally tough, but when you're actually in a state of love, it's not so much that you're mentally tough. It's more that you're accepting of how people are. And as you learn to be more accepting, you're like a duck. The water just flows off your back.
Yeah.
And you go, well, that's where they at. If I'm guided to help them, I'll help them. If I'm guided to keep my mouth shut, and I'm guided a lot to keep my mouth shut, I keep my mouth shut. I don't always succeed, but
I like that. I like that. My wife doesn't either.
Sometimes you just go, well, you know what? They have to learn their lesson in their own time.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
For me, I have the ability to say things which hone right into the point real quick.
Yeah.
I don't mess words very much. And then what happens is a month, a week, a month, a few months later, people will say back to me exactly what I said to them as if it was their idea. And I used to get so annoyed that I wasn't getting credit because it was my idea that they got. They didn't get it at the time I said it, but they got it later and they want to repeat it back to them as if it's their idea. And I used to get so annoyed. And then I realized, why am I getting annoyed? If I want credit, that means I'm an ego. So I have to learn to accept that I imparted some words of wisdom that they finally got, but they got it in their own time, not in the time that I wanted them to get it, not at when I said it, but they got it in their time. And that's good. They got it.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you a quick story, and I want you to tell me if I was in fear or love. Okay. So at my job, I'm a copywriter. I write articles and papers that go out to clients, and I write awards for the business for the company, right? And in this one particular thing, I wrote an award, and the person didn't say like thank you, didn't show me any appreciation, and I kind of got in my feelings, and I was like, oh, I don't need a thank you. I was just like an appreciator, a pat on the back, right? We ended up winning the award, and nothing was ever said from anyone, right? And I took it very personal, like to the point where I wasn't speaking or anything, and it was so petty of me, right, to let something that small like interfere. But I was like, at least show gratitude. Do you think I was in love or fear?
Fear.
I don't think I like this conversation no more. Why do you say fear?
Because you wanted something from somebody else. You were not able to validate yourself for the good work that you did in helping to win the award by the way you put the words together and presented it. Yeah, we have to learn to validate ourselves a whole lot in love.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't mean you did anything wrong. I don't think you did anything wrong, by no means. But the fact that however long ago it happens, it still bothers you. So you got to forgive yourself for letting it bother you.
And I know you're right, and I shouldn't be this way. And I think I am going to forgive myself because you're 100%. I don't. It's no reason for me to be like that. So I appreciate that.
But we're
But
going to have we're going to be like that periodically. The question is, how quickly do we want to get over it?
do you think self-doubt is a strong? Okay, I use self-doubt, but I want your opinion. What do you think causes people to lean more towards the fear side than the love side?
Because we're comfortable with it. It's what we know. It's what we're used to.
Yeah.
It's not it's not it's not like people understand that self-doubt is fear. That's what I'm doing. I'm helping to raise people's awareness to the different facets of fear, which is just about everything, by the way. Love is love. It never changes. And we show love through kindness, compassion, harmony, peace, all of those wonderfully words that make us feel good inside. We think we feel good inside when we do something in fear, but that's because we have nothing better to compare it to. It's not like we really know what love is. We have to learn it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. You've been married 31 years. That's a long time. Long time. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Out of those 31 years, have y'all ever had an argument?
Oh my God, yes.
Inside of those arguments, is that a place of fear or is that a place of love?
Always fear. Because our egos are fighting and we want to be the one that's right. We want to be the one that punches them and says, see, if you just listened to me, you would have saved yourself all that agony. And I want to be right. Absolutely.
Okay. So does that take away, so being in that fear in that argument, do you think that takes away from the love and the passion that you show each other over the 31 years, or is that just a spur of the moment, we're in it now, we're out of it tomorrow, or however long the frustration lasts?
I'm going to say both because it's done both. We've had our moments where things were very tough, and then we've had our moments where things go much smoother. And we're more into the smoother part now after all those zillions of similar arguments and a ton of forgiveness.
You know what's funny, and I'm laughing because I'm gonna say this, and she probably slapped me in the head when I walk out of here. But I can remember me and my wife, 24 years, we get into an argument. One of us gonna be in love, and one of us is gonna be in fear. And you know what's funny? You know what's funny, and I hate to laugh because it's not funny, but it's kind of funny. Is that the person that's in love is probably the person that has the least impact in the argument. You know what I mean? Like my wife, she gets mad at me a lot because I'm not that easy to win. But she'll be in the fear aspect of it, right? And she's upset and all this. And I'm just like, oh, I love you too. And she's like, no, you don't. If you love me, you wouldn't have done this. And I'm like, oh. How do you get back to, instead of one in fear, one in love, how do you get yourself and your husband back to both fear? How do you get that?
Back to fear or back to
I mean, no, excuse me, back to love, back to love.
Sometimes you have to say the other person is right to appease the ego, whether you believe that or not. But sometimes you have to decide, is this important? Maybe it's not important. A lot of times it's not important. I'm very particular about my kitchen and how things are. I cook. I'm one of those people that likes to cook. I happen to be vegan, but I like to cook, and I'll cook meat. I don't care. I don't. I don't eat it, so I don't care. But I'm very particular, and I get really annoyed when things aren't put back just right.
Yeah.
And trust me, he doesn't put things back just right. And you know what? It's my issue. It's my issue. I have to learn to accept it's my issue. And stop constantly saying, would you put the silverware back the way it's supposed to be? I want the knives one way, I want the forks in the same way. Silly things like that.
That's me. I'll always put a spoon in the fork spot, man. She hates it. You know what? I have a couple more things to ask you before we end, but I want to say this. I've enjoyed talking with you, Miss Cindi. It was a pleasure having you on the show, man. You are an amazing young lady, and I am thoroughly, thoroughly happy to meet you.
Oh, I've enjoyed this very much.
So, at the end of every show, I like to have fun. This was fun, but now I'm finna test you a little bit. I play a game. It's called Pick One. I give you some options, you choose, or I ask you to say one thing, and you just say one thing, but it's only one. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's go to work. In your book, what's the best passage that you have in there? Take one thing out of the entire book that you wrote. One thing.
Our greatest growth comes from facing our greatest fear.
You have one thing to tell someone to help them be a better person. What's the one thing you tell them?
Trust your intuition.
Last one. I give you the phrase, this is my moment. What's the first thing comes to mind?
To always love yourself.
Here's the deal. You are amazing, man. I can't wait. I'm gonna put the book on my. Where can we find the book at? Is it on Amazon or anything like that? Where can we find it?
Yeah, you have a choice of the ebook or a paperback. And I will like to say that, read the book slowly. You don't have to go as slow as that. One person actually took it quite literally. Don't go quite that slow. But, slowly. So you want to be. It took you a long time to get into fear. It takes time to reverse back to love. And you want to be able to, slowly adjust, because it can be shocking to go quickly and go, whoa, I didn't get any of that. It was way too fast, because it can be overwhelming.
I'm glad you said that, because I only have one speed, slow.
Yeah, slow's good.
Don't leave, Miss Cindi. I'm finna close the show out, and then I'm gonna come right back to you. Don't leave.
Okay.
Hey guys, at the end of every show, I always close out with something profound. I try to give you a good statement, but Miss Cindi said it perfectly. Forgiveness. It don't get no simpler than that. Forgive. And then at the end of the day, go get it!
Making changes for the better, cause it's all about growth, all about success. We wanna see you rise, wanna see you at your best. Hey, keep it rolling, we gotta keep going. There ain't no